Hey guys, it's Plant Pirate here with another microorganism that we've recently found that may cause a very common disease. So we've already talked about schizophrenia and we've already talked about breast cancer, but now we are going to talk about obesity. It's a very common disease, and of course there are a lot of other causes of obesity. I'm not saying there aren't. There's overeating, not exercising enough, and there might be a genetic component too, but there is another potential cause, and that is the common cold. That's right. But it seems kind of obscure to link getting a cold with obesity. So how did someone come up with this? There was a man called Nikhil Durandar, and he was in India, and he realized that chickens infected with a particular kind of virus got really fat afterwards. And this particular kind of virus belongs to a group of viruses called the adenoviruses, or adenoviridae. And there are about 50 different types of adenoviruses that affect humans. So this guy, Nikhil Durandar, found that when infected with one of these viruses, and it was called AD36, since it was the 36th adenovirus found, AD36, they found that the animals gained weight. Then they checked people and found that almost 1 in 3 obese people had antibodies for AD36, compared with only 1 in 20 for thin people. So that's 1 in 3 compared with 1 in 20. And what this means is, what antibodies means, I'll explain that, is that means that you've been affected by this virus, so you have some sort of immune response to it. So it could mean that you're currently being affected by it, or it could mean that in the past you were affected by it. So they had antibodies. That's the important thing. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the virus causes obesity, because, for example, let's say obese people could have compromised immune systems because of their obesity, and so they get more colds than thin people. But this definitely raises questions about whether this particular virus causes obesity. Nothing is conclusive yet, but the guy who noticed that chickens get fat after being infected with an adenovirus is looking into it. And he's noticed that fat cells are more often made by stem cells infected by AD36. So stem cells are the cells in the body that can be made into any type of other cell, right? So we had a stem cell that made all of the cells in my entire body, because they can divide and make any other kind of cell. So when they're exposed to this virus, AD36, they actually make, they more often make fat cells, so cells that hold fat, than any other type of cell. And some people think that maybe the reason that stem cells turn into fat cells has to do with a hormone called leptin. Now, most people think that hormones are only involved in like puberty and PMS and things like that. But actually, hormones are involved in a lot more, a lot of different processes, such as telling the body how much fat to put on. So leptin is one of these hormones. And it's involved in a lot of other processes, but this is one of the things that it's involved in. But before more research is done on leptin, we can only speculate that perhaps the virus somehow interferes with leptin because of its connection with fat production. So it might just be that getting a common cold actually makes you fatter. Just like the rest of the microorganism videos that I've done, I got this material from the New Scientist magazine, and I've put a few more references up on the sidebar, and for people who want to look into this. And this has been Plant Pirate, and peace!